What's one word to describe how most people feel at work right now?
Depleted, no energy, and no meaning. Workplace, you can see fear. Employees have fear of being fired, fear of making mistakes, fear of being outpaced by colleagues. Instead of cooperating, they are competing with each other. I see fear, a very important fear of rocking the boat, making innovative suggestions.
If Bruno's answers sound painfully familiar, you're not alone. Across industries, businesses are being asked to do more with less. Teams are expected to move faster and deliver results in an environment shaped by uncertainty, rapid technological change like AI, and relentless pressure to perform. But when pressure becomes a dominant operating system, what does it do to the people inside it? And what does it ultimately cost the business itself? Today, I'll be exploring with my guest, Bruno Cignacco, the hidden role fear plays at work and why it may be undermining the very performance companies are trying to improve. Welcome to Mind Blend. I'm your host, Karen Chong. In each episode, I talk with people who've experienced something real, and we break down what made the difference, so you can see yourself and the world around you more clearly, spot what you might have been missing, and move through life with a clearer way forward. If you like what you're hearing, share with those around you and subscribe to Mind Blend. You will help a lot in spreading the insights for anyone who can use them. Let's blend. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Bruno Cignacco, who has spent more than 3 decades working with companies around the world, across industries, cultures, levels of leadership, helping them grow profitably while staying deeply human-centered. Hi, Bruno. Welcome to Mind Blend.
Thank you very much for your invite, Karen. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you.
So one reason why I invited Dr. Cignacco here is for the last, I think, year or two, we have seen a lot of layoffs, restructuring, and it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. So a lot of my ex-colleagues, they are survivors. So they survived the layoffs, but what they're left with is a lot of extra work, lean teams, and just this stress of how can I avoid being the next one being laid off. We will dive into all things human-centered business, how we can have more productive environments for ourselves and for companies. So let me first start with, I know you have worked with a lot of companies, helping them be more human-centered and how they can improve their performance and profits. When you first go into a company, what do you look at to understand how the employee experience really is?
Very important. Well, when I visit the company in person, what I see very clearly, and I can feel it too, but then obviously we conduct some surveys to corroborate this. What I observe is a very crucial factor that is against any psychologically safe workplace, and this factor is fear. The most important factor that hinder productivity, efficiency, competitiveness is fear. My latest book, The Art of Compassionate Business, I explain this factor in detail, and I mentioned that there are different types of fear. For example, in a workplace, you can see fear. Employees have fear of being fired, fear of making mistakes, fear of being outpaced by colleagues. Instead of cooperating, they are competing with each other, especially in very highly competitive sectors. And then I see fear, a very important fear of rocking the boat, making innovative suggestions. So, for example, introducing new product or launching new services. Why? Because this happens a lot in companies that are very conservative, very traditional, that they are very resistant to change. When you see this fear and feel this fear, also you see that most of the conversation in the workplace are business-based. So this means that employees do not talk about their personal issues or what they have done during the weekend. And you can say, but they're there to work. Yeah, but they are also human beings and they can take some breaks and talk about non-business topics. But in companies that are fear-based, you see only business conversation, traditional business conversation about objective, projects, deadlines, strategies, and this is very limiting type of conversation. But also you see that in many cases, people are very rigid. In fear-based workplaces, people are very rigid with the application of rules. For example, let's imagine that the employment contract of an employee has some clear limitation. For example, you can only take some time off a certain number of days per year. The companies that are fear-based, they are very strict with the application of these rules and this condition and this obligation. And so if the employee have any problem, for example, health issues or personal problem with the dependents at home, or for example, financial difficulty or any other personal problem, this company will not care so much about the specific circumstances, but will apply the rules in a very rigid way. Will look very uncompassionate. So, but in these workplaces that are fear-based, people tend to trust very little each other. So they don't much, or in some cases they distrust each other, so which impede a cooperative shown effort, but also they try to compete with one another, and in some cases they withhold resources like information or data that is crucial data for business success. So when I observe this type of fear, I mention this to the company, and we generally conduct a survey to hear the employee views on this. In some cases, it could be an anonymous survey where employees will not have to include their names, and so that they're not afraid of being punished, because it's also another fear. In some cases, company punish employees that make mistakes, and so employees are terrorized, they are frightened.
Yeah, I want to ask a lot about that because I myself have worked in companies where even though it's not apparent, but I feel the fear of getting their hands slapped. In a way, I feel like companies want this. They don't say that as, oh, we are fear-based, but they want this fear because they think they'll whip people in shape. Like it will keep them in check. What's your view on that?
My view is that this is counterintuitive, but when people feel fear, and the psychologists can talk about this much more extensively, your brain doesn't function well. Why? Because your cognitive skills, for example, critical analysis, creative capabilities, are temporarily impaired. Why? Because when you're fearful, you try to adopt a defensive attitude. You perceive that there is a threat. For example, my manager might punish me if I make mistake. This is a threat. The threat will be the manager. And so what happened? We tend to become reactive instead of being proactive. We try to focus our attention, we channel our attention to the threat at hand, and we cannot be productive, we cannot be creative. Why? Because we're in survival mode. We are adopting this freeze, fight, fly mode, and this freeze, fight, fly mode is a basic defense mode that doesn't allow us to think creatively or insightfully or analyzing things in a critical way. We're very reactive. But also, companies try to infuse fear because they try to control employees. And they say, we have to control, if not, they will do whatever they want. This is based on a lack of trust, because when you have to control, it's because you don't trust them to do things correctly on their own. And I call this the fallacy of micromanaging, because when you are treating people like children, not the children that need to be controlled at all times, what do you expect them to respond positively? No, you are not trusting them, you are distrusting them, and they are likely to distrust you in return, because trust generates more trust, but distrust also generates distrust from others. So people have a very important need, and I mentioned this in all my training and talks, need for autonomy. They need to feel competent. They need to feel that they can apply their skills, their expertise, their experience without being dictated every single step. You can give as a manager general guidelines, but then you allow the how and what resources to use and when to do this to the employee discernment. So you trust them. And when you trust employees, they are more likely to respond in a very positive way, because by trusting them, you are appreciating their expertise, you are appreciating their experience, their skills. Instead, when you distrust them, this doesn't generate a positive environment, and employees are more prone to work by the book, not cooperating, or in some cases, they become too dependent and they cannot apply these discerning skills, this critical analysis, this creativity. So this is quite important. How can we encourage autonomous work where employees are only given guidelines and then employees can do the work the way that they feel that they need to be done? And also, we are also welcoming any comment from the employee, for example, clarification, or we can provide, when necessary, coaching or mentoring need to be supported, but not micromanaging, because it's also based on fear. Micromanaging and control is based on fear. But instead, when you trust them, employee can go beyond what you expect, because there is a very famous phenomenon called Pygmalion effect that I mentioned also in the book. Pygmalion effect is what you expect from others tend to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect others to be trustworthy, you are treating them as if they were trustworthy, without you knowing if they are really trustworthy or not. You start treating them and interacting with them in a trusting way. Instead, when you believe that they are not trustworthy, you start treating them in a very defensive way, controlling way. And what do you expect them to do? They will respond accordingly. So this means positive expectations generally bring about positive behavior from others. Instead, when you have negative expectations, this is a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. They are more prone to not to cooperate, they are more prone to be inefficient, they are more prone to be unproductive, and so on. So always allowing people to meet their need for autonomy and meet their need for being competent, feeling appreciated, because at the end, employees do not have only economic needs, for example, a need for a good salary, but they also have emotional needs. They need to feel that they are valued, they count, that they're contributing to the company in a meaningful way. And the only way to do this is delegating, helping employees to take charge of some tasks without being dictated every single step to take.
You mentioned earlier fear-based companies, the employees withhold information, they don't help each other. And I know quite a few companies, the way they do their performance reviews is that they will definitely have an arbitrary group of people who are in the bottom. Like, it's applying a curve to performance reviews. So it's not going to be everyone being winners. There's an arbitrary group of employees that will be in the bottom, and those are the next batch to be let go. Are you familiar with these types of review systems?
What is important is, you comment about the appraisal process. When employees are monitored, their performance is monitored. Are we being compassionate? What I observe in many companies, the feedback given to employees by manager is uncompassionate. How this happens? Because when they have this appraisal process where employees are given some feedback, the focus of uncompassionate feedback is on the past mistake, on the past errors, on what they did wrong, highlighting the negative, focusing on the past, and in some cases punishing employees. Means, okay, you didn't get the quotas met, so now you will have no bonus, so punishing, penalizing employees. Passionate feedback in an appraisal process will be completely opposite. You take into account things that didn't work well in the past, but you don't focus so much. You focus on the future. How this can be improved. You work things in a way that implies positive change. Supposing that the employee didn't meet the quota, you will frame this in a positive way. We are very confident and we have positive expectation that you are prone to meet the quota in the future, and we are here to help you. How we will help you? Well, we can give you additional training. We can give you some mentoring, some coaching, training on the job, shadowing. So this means that you are highlighting the capability of this employee and you're highlighting the potential. When you highlight the potential, there is an interesting paper on this. You highlight the potential of this employee. and you have positive expectation about their future performance, this employee is more prone to take your feedback on board. This means that they won't become defensive, they won't become fearful because they know that you are on the same side. You're there to help you, to help each other. So the manager helping the employee, and the employee is more prone to help this manager. But when you focus on penalties, chastising this employee, penalizing, this employee is more prone to become reactive and fearful and adopt this freeze, fight, flight mode that won't allow him or her to apply her discerning skills, their creative skills. So can we focus on the future? Can we focus on the human side of feedback? Means we try to help this employee enhance and unleash their potential. Most companies are doing the opposite. They focus on the mistake, penalization, and this will be an interesting change to be introduced by most companies because it implies the overall refinement and fine-tuning of the feedback process.
Yeah. So going beyond the feedback process, what are some other areas that you can see that a company is compassionate?
Very, very interesting. Well, a very interesting area is companies that are compassionate take into account employees' personal issues very seriously. So this means that employees are not only employees, they are human beings, flesh and bone human beings that have families, they have health issues in some cases, they have some problems at home, could be divorce or grieving, someone died or someone is ill. Companies take this very seriously. Why? Because they know that the role is only a very tiny part of the employee's life. Is a human being before becoming an employee. If the, for example, employee has some, for example, grievance issues, for example, someone died, they give some time off for this employee to mourn, to go through the grieving process. These companies are very compassionate because they care for this employee on a personal level. So this is quite important because employees doesn't have only, as we mentioned, economic needs, but they have emotional needs, social needs, and so on. And research has shown once and again that when employees is treated in a compassionate way, these employees feel better. They can feel much more self-soothed. This means that their issues, their painful issues tend to be lessened a lot. But also this employee, when he's treated in a compassionate way, consider the whole workplace as being compassionate. This means that they feel much more at ease. And this employee is more prone to feel satisfied and treat customer in a much more effective way because when employees is taken care of, when employees is appreciated, when employees is valued, and also is supported, especially in difficult times, because this employee is more prone to give their best, go beyond the working by the book, and support customer in return. So this means that being compassionate with employees bring about positive effect on customer satisfaction, but also on productivity. These employees tend to be more productive, especially because their stress levels are lower by being supported by the company.
Oh, so I wanted to ask, how does the compassionate business environment, so that creates a psychologically safe place for employees? Besides the less stress, how does that actually help employees to feel more autonomous and do better work for the company?
Yeah, there is a very interesting research study that observed that psychologically safe workplaces, what some will call loving workplaces. What is a loving workplace? Where employees feel supported, when employees feel understood, when employees can express their views without the fear of being penalized or chastised. And also workplaces where employees cooperate in a meaningful way with one another. This psychologically safe workplace, according to this study, observed that there is higher employee satisfaction, higher customer satisfaction, lower stress levels, lower absenteeism, lower turnover, more productivity, more creativity, more innovation. Why this happens? Because when employees feel supported, they're less prone to adopt this freeze, fight, flight mode. So this means that employee can embrace fully, they're more prone to embrace fully their natural capability, like critical analysis, innovation, but they're also more prone to be expansive in their relationship. They're more prone to cooperate, they're more prone to collaborate with others, they're more prone to also experience positive emotions. And positive emotions are taken very seriously by researchers because there is a very important phenomenon called emotional contagion. Emotional contagion implies that when someone experiences positive emotion, for example, joy, happiness, and so on, they are prone to infect others around with this positive emotion, and these people tend to experience the same positive emotion. The opposite happens when you experience negative emotion. When you are angry, you tend to infect others with this limiting emotion, and people also tend to feel a lot of stress or distress when they are around you. So this means that and positive emotion, there is a very interesting framework also that explains very clearly, tend to enhance your mental skills, your critical analysis, your creative skill, but also enhance relationship with others, strengthen relationship with others because you are more sociable, you are much more amenable, you are more prone to support each other, and this strengthen and brighten relationship within the workplace. But also your emotional needs are met. This means that you feel valued, you feel supported, and you're more prone to act and support this company in return. This is what we call social reciprocity. When you are supporting others, they are more prone to support you in return. So this happens with positive attitude and negative attitude. If the manager is continually supporting this employee on a regular basis, this employee, this subordinate, is more prone to support the manager and support the whole company in return because they feel indebted. They cannot act otherwise. So instead, when the manager is treating this employee in an unkind, disrespectful way, well, this employee will tend to withdraw, tend not to cooperate. They will tend to work by the book, and they will look for other job opportunities.
So in your consulting work, you may have clients who have wanted to see sort of a before and after
Yes.
measurement. How can you measure the effect of a company being compassionate?
Very interesting. And you cannot measure with figures because at the end, you have two main aspects in business. And many people don't recognize this, but they're very clearly distinct. You have what we call quantitative aspect of business, what can be measured very precisely. Market share, productivity, sales, and so on. And then you have, these are very important, we call also key performance indicator, KPI. These are important for economic survival, but also economic growth and so on. But then you have the qualitative aspect of business, which are as important as the first category, and the qualitative aspect of business are some principles and values that we mentioned before, compassion, kindness, generosity, gratitude. Even they cannot be measured precisely with figures like sales or market share. They are important for developing, fostering strong, long-lasting relationship, robust relationship with different stakeholders. You can measure them indirectly. You might measure employee satisfaction, which implies that this employee is supported, is treated in a compassionate way, but you cannot give a figure. Even some especially try to do so. And I want to mention a very important quote from a thought leader that observed, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So this means that in business, in some cases, there are some aspects, the qualitative aspects that are not measurable, not precisely measured or counted in detail as the key performance indicator, but they're fundamental to build this network of positive interdependence and positive reciprocity. You are supporting others, and they're more prone to support you in return. You are generous with others, and they're more prone to be generous with you. And this applies not only to employees, as I mentioned, apply to customers, to suppliers, to community members. This is quite important because it's also tied to a topic that I mentioned very laterally in my book, that is the topic of reputation. When companies behave in a compassionate way, in a supportive way, in a focusing also a lot on qualitative aspect, building this robust relationship with different stakeholders, not only employees. These companies tend to have a better reputation, more positive reputation, and a big brand image, means that their products are recognized in a positive way.
Yeah.
There is research on this, that when companies have a positive reputation, a good brand image, they tend to attract naturally more talented employees. They tend to attract high quality investors, and they tend to be portrayed by the media as an example to be emulated, as the role model in this sector.
Yeah.
This is free promotion because you don't have to pay. The company is doing things well, in an ethical, in a supportive way, not only according to the law, not only according to the economic indicator. It's building a strong relationship. It's improving the life not only of shareholders, but also of customers, of employees, community members. So this means a win-win-win-win relationship with all the stakeholders. And this company in return is enhancing their brand image, enhancing their reputation, as is this company is standing out from the rest. Standing out from the rest, and only positive effect can ensue. Why? Because everyone would like to work for this company. All media, that most of the media platforms are sensationalistic, will portray this as the exception in the sector, as the positive exception, as the role model, the perfect example to be followed by other company. And this only generate positive effects, create ripple effects that are very positive, not only for the company, but for all stakeholders involved.
So even though being compassionate may not directly increase your sales immediately, but the reputation, because that relationship with all your stakeholders, it helps you. It's an indirect benefit to your numbers.
Not so indirect, because I give you an example. We're talking about employees and we're talking about customers, two main stakeholders. If you treat employees in a compassionate way, you can see the effect very directly, can be directly observed, because employees that are treated in a compassionate way tend to serve customers much more effectively. They tend to adopt an attitude of service instead of an attitude of selling. Instead of focusing on selling, they focus on serving customers. We try to improve this customer life. We try to find a specific product that is only suitable for this customer. We're very customer oriented. And customer, when they're treated in this way, that is very uncommon. When the employee treat this customer in a personalized way, try to offer a tailor-made offering for this product, for service, this customer is more prone to leave positive reviews. And these positive reviews directly attract more potential customers. So this means will create a positive cycle. But also these employees that are treated in a compassionate way, they feel less stressed. They feel more productive. They're more prone to suggest innovative ideas. Imagine employees that are in the customer service department, every day interacting with customers. They might think that they don't work so well, and so this customer service officer might say, you know what, to the manager, I observe that customers are a bit delayed because of this factor and so on. Why don't we change this? These very tiny ideas can save a lot of money for this company, can lower the cost, can improve customer satisfaction. So it's not so indirect, because at the end, people are the interface between this company and especially employees, the interface between the company and external stakeholders. When employees are treated in a compassionate way, they tend to be much more insightful with their ideas, more productive. They have a heart in the company. They don't do the job as a chore. But they have a heart, and they are trying to act in a much more meaningful way, contributing positively to the company's business.
Like now I'm trying to think of companies that don't have very good reputations in their service. Their product tends to be not very good either. Like not so much their product, but how I interact with this company, like my feeling towards the company is also not that great.
I can tell you this is a very good point, and I like your comment, because what you can easily feel, in some cases it's very difficult to describe with words, how customers feel when the company is not compassionate and customer oriented. They feel First off, they feel in the language that the people from this company use. Very technical and very scripted. This means that they might use the same script with all customers. But we have to understand that each customer is unique. You cannot use a standardized script. So this means that the communication means, in many cases, look like a bit mechanical. But then this company tend to focus on themselves. This is what is in for me with this customer. How this customer will contribute to my sales, to my market share. So this means that the customer is not treated in a human way. It's treated as a figure, a means to contribute to the company's key performance indicators, sales, productivity, market share, and so on. It's a company that have an attitude of service and they are treating customer in a human way. They are focusing on customer. This means that the main focus is on improving customer life, adding value to them in a very distinctive way, and they have personalized exchange with customers. It means that they can talk about product services, but they can talk about customer fears, worries, concern, dreams, expectation, and they try to connect customer needs. They know so much about their own needs, the company's technical knowledge about product and services, and they try to find the match. A product that is suitable for this unique customer. And they try to make customer experience positive emotion. This is so crucial. Companies that are customer oriented try to make customer feel positive emotion before selling a product, during the sale process, and after selling the product. This means that customers feel a positive connection and they feel that they made the right choice when they bought the product. And if they have some doubts or clarification after having bought the product, they can resort to the company, have a call, phone call with this company or send an email, and they feel that they will be supported by this company. There is a very important positive emotional bond with this company.
Unfortunately, in today's world, because you have shareholders you need to please, and a lot of the time it is down to the number. So companies are not always compassionate. You see a lot of companies doing away with customer service departments. They rely on forums. Like, if you have an issue, write this forum, somebody will answer you. The benefits of being compassionate is invaluable.
I'll give you an example of a company that I mentioned in the book. That this trader shows that is a company, it's a grocery company in United States. What is going on in the grocery shop sector? Well, many groceries chains, what they are doing is they are replacing employees at the till, where customers have to pay, for these checkout machines. So this means that you will see, for example, instead of there won't be any person when you go, before going out of the shop and you have to pay, you will have a machine and you have to check out the product on your own.
It's all over the UK too.
All over the UK. And so what we will see that this is very uncompassionate approach, because there are some people, for example, family with restless children or elderly people might need some support. And in some cases, there is no employee to support these people. Trader Show, this American chain, what they are doing is they are not incorporating any technology in the checkout points, but they have employees with the traditional checkout, helping customer checkout and scanning the product for them. This company is one of the fastest growing companies in the sector. Employees have one of the most important employees reviews regarding commitment, regarding work quality, environment, but also there are examples where a family with some restless children that were not allowed to pay, or they were like a kind of distress because when they were checking out, the children were getting very stressed. The employees were helping the company by distracting or singing songs or making.
Oh, wow.
So that the children were getting more relaxed and the parents could pay for the merchandise and so on. So this means that they were giving some emotional support, not only technical support or commercial support when checking out, but also emotional support for this distressed parent. And this company is one of the companies that has the better reputation, the company where employees are paid above average in the sector, and company that employees want to remain in that company because they feel that they are making a meaningful contribution to customer and to the company as a whole.
Yeah. You and I are both in the UK, so we see how many of these self-checkouts there are. Sometimes it does make me feel very not like a human customer because there will be errors. It doesn't tell me why there's an error, and the person come to help me, but it's because I did something not in the order that they designed the machine, but there's no way for a customer to know. But that's a whole different topic. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a topic, but I want to mention briefly that when you see companies investing so much on technology and cutting off personnel, this is a company that is more prone to have an imbalance between what I call high tech and high touch.
Yeah.
There should be a balance between the use of technology that could be very valuable for improving productivity, more efficiency, and so on. For example, there you can include some machinery or latest appliances, technological appliances, but also the human touch. So there should be an equilibrium between these two. Let's give an example. Supposing that you have a website and a customer can use these bots to clarify some doubts.
Yeah.
If the company has only this technology embedded in their website, only bots, you can only talk to bots, and there is not a telephone number, a helpline, this will be only high tech. You use the bots, can solve some problem, but the most specific problem won't be solved. Instead, when you use bot and a telephone number to talk to a real person, there is an equilibrium, a balance between high tech and high touch, because you are considering the human side. You are not only investing in technology, but also you have real people. In some cases, the problem cannot be solved by this bot or technologically advanced appliances. So you have real people. So I always advise companies that keep on investing in technology, but at the same time, remain with the human side. This means the high touch. Do you have a telephone number?
Yeah.
Do you have video conferences or video conferencing software where customer can see a real person and can connect to them if they have any problem? This is quite important.
So for this last part, I'd like to play some rapid fire. I'll ask you some quick questions and you give me quick answer, whatever comes to mind immediately.
Please.
What's one word to describe how most people feel at work right now?
Depleted.
Depleted.
No energy, and no meaning. This is a lack of meaning.
Wow, that's sad.
Very sad.
Okay, what's a leadership phrase that you think sounds compassionate, but it isn't?
Okay, well, this could be, I'm here to tell you and to teach you how to do things. I'm here to tell, why so uncompassionate? Because this is the know-it-all leader. They believe that they know it all and they're not open to receive any views from others. So this is the undemocratic leader. This means that they're not participative. They're making decisions in solitude on their own. And they're not perceiving their own blind spots. This is a very bad leader. And I hope that there won't be any of these leaders in the future because there are a lot in the marketplace.
Yeah, we definitely need more good leaders. Okay, what's the most compassionate thing someone at work has ever done for you?
Well, in general, any type of value added by others is considered compassionate. But for example, as I was working as a professor, and there was in the past, and still now, but when I started working as a professor, there was some software that I didn't understand. Well, I have no understanding of this. And what I had a colleague that was very willing to explain how to use this software in detail. This was very important software because it was software for identifying a student. The marking process was also on the software, and I have to know how to use it in a very specific way. And I didn't have so much time to learn all this on my own. And this person devoted a lot of time, hours, explaining this. And obviously, as a token of gratitude, I invited this person to have a dinner out as colleagues because I felt so touched that my manager didn't explain this, and this person that was a colleague with no interest out of generosity, explain this over. And this can be observed also in any type of workplaces where people give away their skills, their support, in some cases they can coach others, mentor others without expecting anything in return. And when they do so, they create a positive cycle of reciprocity and cooperation and trust.
Yeah. If it's a fear-based organization, the colleague is not going to teach you. He or she will want you to fail.
Yes.
But because you know how to use the software, you're helping the organization.
You are helping your colleague and the organization. And also you are creating a positive cycle of reciprocity. If this colleague needed something from me, I was very willing to support them unconditionally. Why? Because I felt indebted. Being generous, being supported with others create an imbalance, which implies that the other person feel indebted with you. They feel compelled to help you. Why? Because you added value to their lives before.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having this conversation with me on how the value being compassionate adds to a business. Not just numbers. I really love your quote. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bruno Cignacco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mind One. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to follow and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. And let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on LinkedIn or leave me a comment. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and let's continue to blend our minds and discover what's possible.